Hey, what's up guys? My name is Sal, and this is another expedition log. On today's episode, we'll be visiting a mall that has been chipped away at and left for dead over the years, and it's currently sitting abandoned, awaiting redevelopment. I'll be briefly covering the fascinating story about why it was named as it was, along with a full historical account of the slings and arrows of its troubled existence over the years. While you're watching, make sure to follow me on all my social media and to subscribe to everyone on the DMod seal that you saw at the beginning. Links to all of that are in the description below. So come take a walk with me through the Canton Centre, formerly the Mellett Mall in Canton, Ohio. But first, a word from our sponsor. The most badass hired kung fu killer of the 70s that can kick 80 people through different windows within 20 seconds. For your consideration, I give you Black Belt Jones.
Enter Jim, Dragon, Kelly. Clubbers them out as Black Belt Joe.
I lost 3 of my best men in there.
Who killed my father? Who's Pinky?
What you wonderful little mama?
I ain't your mama.
Like us, man. Oh, wow, man, she killed him. She brought you back.
What's wrong? What are you doing? No, you stay here till I get back. Do those dishes.
They're done.
Black Belt Jones leads his private commandos into the nerve center of a gangland stronghold to crack a super crime conspiracy. Enter Jim, Dragon.
You don't need these. What the hell is that? Penneys? That son of a bastard with panties in my face?
Gambling, extortion, theft, and prostitution were the seedy lifeblood of organized crime in the 1920s, with mob bosses like Bugsy Siegel and Lucky Luciano in New York. And I promise if you stick with me just for a couple more minutes, the context I'm giving you will circle right back to the relevance of the Mellett Mall. So just bear with me for a moment. And while crime was at an all-time high in New York, in the Midwest you had Chicago, where mobsters like Al Capone were terrorizing the streets, and public enemy number 1, John Dillinger, was promoting crime across the Windy City. There was lots of crime happening out west too, but I'm not going to get into that. But in between these two cities, many smaller hamlets would become junior syndicates for illegal gambling and contractual temporary love. Namely in Ohio, where Youngstown, Toledo, and the Columbia Heights region, including Massillon, but most notably was Canton, Ohio, which became known as Little Chicago. Mythical tales of Al Capone frequenting Canton are told by locals, but there's not one shred of factual evidence to support this. With prostitution and gambling out in the open, it became apparent that the police simply weren't doing anything about it. Then in May of 1926, after spending some time doing the investigative footwork, editor and publisher of the Canton Daily News, Don Mellett, published a piece on the murder of local mob figure Paul Kitzig, pinning the crime on Ben Rudner. He started receiving death threats and hired a bouncer to protect him. But the threat subsided and he let his defenses down and he fired the bodyguard. On the night of July 16th, he was murdered in his own home. The Canton Daily News won the Pulitzer Prize for Public Service 1 year after Don Mellett was shot and killed. Fast forward to the 1940s and World War II. During this time, various naval ordnance plants were being constructed, which were massive arms factories. In 1942, one of these was built in Canton, Ohio, between Whipple Ave and Raft Road. To give the workers some place to sleep and rest during construction, a series of barrack-style homes were built under a program called the Mellett Housing Project, named after the aforementioned journalist, Don Mellett. Fast forward yet again to 1960s Canton, Ohio. The war's been over for years, and the arms depots have been converted to other industrial uses. So in 1963, a group of community members formed the Mellett Homes Corporation and acquired funding to build a brand new 300,000 square foot mall where the barracks homes stood. construction on the $7 million open-air mall was underway by June of 1964. And 1 year later, the grand opening and dedication was held on March 4th, 1965 for the Mellett Mall, which was named in honor of slain journalist Don Mellett, and in honor of the risk that he courageously took as an ordinary citizen, just like the risks taken by the ordinary citizens of the Mellett housing project in building this mall. JCPenney opened as the original anchor just 2 months later at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, May 26th. And the footage that you're seeing now and that you just saw are from the glory days of the Mellett Mall, as you saw the Montgomery Ward and here the JCPenney as it originally stood. As a matter of fact, the JCPenney that you're seeing in this old vintage footage here, that's exactly how that JCPenney looks today. So despite efforts to renovate the facade, if you want to see a vintage 1965 JCPenney, go to Canton, Ohio. It's still open. In an article dated June 1965, Arthur R. James, who was president of Mellett Homes, Inc., announced that Zwick's was to be the third department store at Mellett Mall, joining JCPenney and the recently announced M. O'Neill Company. But plans changed quickly after Mellett Homes, Inc. acquired a much larger expansion tract of land in the coming months. As you'll learn a little bit later in this video, this is the prior O'Neill's turned May Company turned Kaufman's turned Macy's. And as you can see, it's not doing so hot. This has been closed for quite some time now. And if you'll also notice, if you go to my YouTube page, on the very top in the cover section, that this space is the cover photo for my YouTube page, and it has been for quite some time. I absolutely love this place. It stinks. It stinks of mold from even 50 yards out in the parking lot. But it's just a fascinating, decayed structure that really caught my attention. But we'll talk a bit more about this a bit later in the video. And we'll also get a sneak peek inside the abandoned moldy wing, as Anthony from Ace's Adventures kindly allowed me to use some of his footage so I can give you a glimpse in there, because that area is shuttered and you can't get in. So thanks a lot, Ace. Really appreciate that. Everybody go sub to Ace. This channel's awesome. Also, go sub to everybody on that seal that you saw in the very beginning. Everybody on the Dead Malls of Discord server seal. Subscribe to all of them. All their channels rock. On Saturday, December 25th, 1965, Orville G. Kerr, Secretary of Mellett Homes, Inc., announced that the Mellett Mall would be enclosed with the installation of a new lighted ceiling with skylights throughout, along with air conditioning and the addition of the O'Neill's department store. These renovations would cost $3 million and would make this the first enclosed mall in Stark County, Ohio, and just the fourth in the entire state. Then, in February of 1966, Mellett Homes, Inc. announced an even bigger and more aggressive proposal for the entirety of the Mellett Mall shopping center. They acquired a 65-acre expansion tract of land surrounding the mall and planned on a huge $18 million expansion, which, along with the $3 million to enclose and install air conditioning in the original mall, they would also build a brand new 128,000 square foot Montgomery Ward, a 115,000 square foot O'Neill's, and a 22,000 square foot automobile servicing building, along with an additional 60,000 square feet of concourse in the mall, a 1,000 seat theater, a restaurant, and a massive women's ready-to-wear store. These plans were huge, and they were ready to make the Mellett Mall this area's premier shopping destination. On May 11th, 1966, the Canton Zoning Board of Appeals recommended approval for a zoning change to the recently acquired expansion tract by Mellett Homes, Inc. to be changed from B residential to A business. And then on Monday, June 20th, the City Council approved unanimously a zoning change to allow the expansion at the Mellett Mall, and the renovations were a go. Over the next few months, ground was broken and construction began. The O'Neills was scheduled to open around May 1st of 1967, with the wards opening in the spring of 1968, as part of Montgomery Ward's $500 million expansion project, which they started back in 1959. Construction on the project took longer than expected, and the O'Neills finally opened on February 15, 1968. About 6 months later, the Montgomery Ward opened on Thursday, August 22nd, with a full dedication and grand opening of the East Wing corridor. Further expansion would bring the Mellett Mall cinema to the mall on December 20th, 1968. The Mellett Mall was quickly becoming the hub of the community, only facing competition when the Belden Village Mall opened in 1970. The two malls coexisted for years, despite the idea of an open-air mall dying off slowly, which gave Belden Village the edge on traffic. But they each served a unique experience for the local community and coexisted for quite some time.
I love it here at Randall Park Mall. Shopping is great. Frequent shopper is super. Thanks for making it easy.
Making me look good and feel good. I love it here.
Randall is tops.
Tops and pops.
Make companies for me. Penneys.
And Sears.
I feel right horns. And hippies is for me.
Or anything you might need.
The hospitality team's here to please.
Wait, there's one more reason why.
Love what's here. You love what's here at Randall.
Traffic began declining rapidly going into the 1980s at Mellett Mall. So in a decisive yet difficult decision, Mellett Homes Inc. put the mall on the market. On March 1st, 1981, it was announced that the mall was to be purchased by an anonymous group of investors. And some months later, the news broke that Forest City Enterprises Inc., who developed both the Chapel Hill Mall and Rolling Acres in Akron, Ohio, they purchased the Mellett Mall on September 30th, 1981 for a total of $12,540,500. They paid $500,000 in cash, signed a $6 million note, and assumed 4 separate mortgages totaling $6,040,500. Through the 1980s, the mall coasted, as other shopping centers in the region would siphon business slowly but steadily, especially with the likes of Rolling Acres just a half hour north of Canton. But nothing changed at Mellett Mall during the 1980s. At least nothing that would directly contribute to its inevitable downfall later on. It had a pretty quiet life in the 80s. This stall used to be a Hot Sam's Pretzel. And back at my childhood mall in New Jersey, the Ocean County Mall, I remember my mom, my grandmother, my aunt always taking me to Hot Sam's. And I remember the cardboard container that the pretzel sticks would come in, the yellow cardboard container. And I would always switch it up. It would either be pretzel sticks with marinara sauce or pretzel sticks with nacho cheese and a lemonade. Oh, those are such awesome memories. The craziest thing that happened to the Mellett Mall in the 1980s was when the cinema refused to pay rent in 1985 and was shut down for a couple months. That's it. Nothing really happened in the 80s. But on February 26, 1988, the Beacon Journal for Stark County announced that the mall would be getting a facelift and a brand new name. The owners even sponsored a contest with a $500 grand prize to whoever can come up with the best name. 1 month later, the name was announced, and the $500 mall shopping spree prize was donated to various children's charities. The new name would be the Canton Centre, and the renaming ceremony began with the owners actually blowing up a wall in the mall, which would kick off a massive $16 million renovation. The owners took out a second mortgage for $22,500,000 to cover the costs. Yikes, that's a lot. So the wall was blown up in the north wing, where they would add a 12-restaurant food court, and they would add 30,000 square feet to the JCPenney, a new access road to circle the mall, 500 extra parking spaces, and an additional 6 screens to the Canton Centre 1 and 2, renaming it to the Canton Centre 8. The remaining 75 in-line tenants would remain open during construction. On November 16, 1988, the renovations were completed, and the former Mellett Mall was rededicated as the Canton Centre. For the celebration, they inflated 2,000 balloons and prepared them to fall on the crowd by pulling a string in a ceremonious act of balloonery. While everyone was enjoying the music and listening to the ceremonial notes, the string was pulled, but it broke. So the balloons were stuck on the ceiling. 2,000 of them. They finally got the balloons to fall after cutting them down with a knife on a stick, but everyone was pretty much gone by then, and only a couple of kids actually got to play with the balloons. But I bet those kids had a ball, and I bet they remember it till this day. If you were there in that rededication, let me know in the comments if you got to play in a bunch of balloons that day. Or if you remember anything from this place. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to talk to you about it. Make sure you join the Discord so we can have a live chat about it too. A link to the Discord is down in the description. We're on there 24/7, so come chat with us. We'd love to hear from you. It's super easy to join. You just download the app on either your desktop or mobile, click the link, head to the chat room called Moderator's Ears, ping a mod, and they'll ask you 2 simple questions. That's it. So come on by and chat with us. We're waiting for you. In 1989, the Akron and Canton-based O'Neill's department store was bought out by the May Company, and on January 27th, the Canton Centre location was reopened as a May Company branded building. Then just 4 years later, in 1993, the May Company was rebranded to its Pittsburgh division chain Kaufmann's. The remodel was completed by January 31st. The mall would continue to lose traffic and business to Belden Village and new Power Center strip malls in the area. By 1997, Montgomery Ward had filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with a last-ditch effort to save the company. But in 2000, as a massive blow to the Canton Centre 8 cinema shuttered. And by December 29th, the Montgomery Ward department store chain announced that it would be closing its doors for good, and all stores were closed within just weeks of their announcement. I've seen many references across the internet on forums and discussion boards that this fountain was dedicated to Don R. Mellett. Rest in peace, Don. Thanks for the mall, and thanks for the journalistic heroism. Sensing it was probably a good time to unload this property, Forest City Enterprises placed the mall up for auction, and in September 2001, it was purchased by the Bankers Trust Corp. For $14 million. They decided to demall and sell the land to the abandoned Montgomery Ward's concourse and anchor spaces to Walmart, who popped up one of their greasy supercenters on the former Ward space by 2004. It was at this time that the Canton Centre was simply sucking money out of their owners' pockets and deemed not economically viable. So Bankers Trust sold what was left of the mall to Nassimi Realty for $3.4 million. By 2005, Kaufmann's was bought out by May Department Stores, and the Kaufmann's was converted into a Macy's by 2006. In 2007, plans to demall the former food court came to fruition, and within a year, a strip mall of about a dozen stores stood in place of where the food court once was. Then in January 2008, Macy's announced that several area stores would be closing, including both Rolling Acres and the Canton Centre locations. The Macy's was closed a few months later after liquidation, and its concourse has since been barricaded off due to excessive mold and water damage. Right now, we're getting a super rare look inside that closed-off Macy's concourse, courtesy of Ace's Adventures. He published a video some time ago getting an exclusive look inside this place, and while I wasn't able to get in, he was kind enough to let me use this. Ace is a good friend of mine, and we've been on multiple expeditions together, and we've hung out a lot. We were actually talking just the other day on the phone about our Hot Sam's experiences as kids. Ace is a good dude. Make sure you sub to him. He's got a great channel, and he's a great guy. Thanks again, Ace, for letting me use this footage. Really appreciate it. I'll buy you a pretzel next time we're going through a mall, if it happens to be open. But just take in how utterly gnarly this wing is. It's sick. As I was preparing this video and researching around on the internet and newspaper articles and tax documents and everything, I stumbled upon a forum of people that were just reminiscing about the mall, and there was an ex-employee of the JCPenney who had a note about the water damage at this place. I'll read her message as it was. Her name is Jessie. Quote, "I used to work at the JCPenney that's still attached and functioning. When it rains really heavy, it floods the mall and then comes into the women's fitting rooms by the mall entrance. The mall basically failed when Belden Village became so big. It's literally 10 minutes up the road. The owner doesn't take care of it, and there have been rumors that he isn't renewing JCPenney's lease. That would be a pretty good thing, in my opinion. It needs torn down." Close quote. And here's another really rare view inside the old O'Neill's turned May Company, turned Kaufmann, turned Macy's, that big white building, my YouTube channel cover. So as you can see, the water damage here is incredible. And this footage is shocking. And I'm pretty glad that Ace got out of there without at least a respiratory infection. But there's a lot of malls like this around the country. And it's a shame that the owners let it devolve to such disrepair and filth and decay. A link to Ace's video on both the Canton Centre and the Moldy Wing expedition and his channel and all the other channels of everyone on the DMod Seal. That's all down in the description below. So make sure you give him and everybody else a sub and a like. They all rock. What was left of this mall sat vacant for years. And as you can see, I was one of those fortunate enough to get to take you all on a walk through this place. But as of just a few months prior to publication of this ExLog, the JCPenney, which is still in operation today, its doors have been shut and fixtures put in place to block entrance to what's left of the mall, and the remainder of the mall interior is now inaccessible. There are plans to redevelop the site in 3 phases, to demolish what's left of the mall and to bring new department stores to the center. I'm sure this is going to happen, but it's just a matter of when. While the story is fascinating about why this was named the Mellett Mall originally, the story about how it died is just sad. Area malls siphoning business off of it, and then ultimately a Walmart, acting as a parasite to just draw all the traffic away. That's the case in a lot of malls around the country. Online shopping didn't kill the mall, but online shopping is just a byproduct and a component of the death of malls. Ultimately, we can attribute the death of this mall to area businesses, bad management, poor upkeep, and Walmart. I'd like to thank all of you for watching this video, especially if you made it to the end of the video with me. Please share this out on your social media and tag me. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and join the Dead Malls of Discord server. We chat 24/7 and we're always there to talk about malls and anything else you want. We get pretty rowdy in our late night voice discussions. Make sure you're also following everyone on the official DMod Seal too. All those links are in the description. They're amazing creators, and I stand behind all of their content 100%. If you see someone's name on the DMod Seal, it means that they're a trusted, verified, and well-respected member of the community, creating content that they put a lot of thought, work, time, research into. The people on the seal are all fantastic creators. There's Ron and Kristen from Unicom, Jack from Retail Apocalypse, John Rev, Anthony and Paula over at Faded Commerce, Ace from Ace's Adventures, we've got the Vintage Spaces, the Caldor Rainbow, the Neon Explorer, and Rust Belt Expeditions. And we're not limited to just video producers. The Neon Explorer, Rust Belt Expeditions, those are Instagram accounts. The Caldor Rainbow and John Rev both run blogs. John Rev also does lots of videos, and he has some really exclusive stuff from earlier on. But even Jack from Retail Apocalypse, he has a great Instagram account. So we have creators from all branches of this genre. But right now, as it stands, among all of the awesome creators on the DMod server, those on the seal are the most trusted creators in the DMod family. But we respect all the creators on the DMod server. So if you're creating, if you want to create, or even if you're curious about what we're doing, stop on by. Links to all of this stuff is down in my description. Thanks to all my patrons especially, because you guys make these expeditions happen. You all rock. And stay tuned for ExLog 53, which will be the Cleveland Arcade and Erie View. So stay tuned for that, coming up soon. Take care, everybody, and have a fantastic day.